Good morning, good evening, old friend. Thank you very much to join us today. I'm Jiaming Zhuo. I'm the Global Strategy Insight Team Director at EMD Serrano, also the co-founder for Insights Witches Community. Today, I'm very honored to host the first episode of China Bio Pioneers, the international edition. China Bio Pioneer is China's leading biopharmaceutical dialogue series. Launched back in 2021, has covered in-depth conversation with over 100 founders and CEOs from China biopharmaceutical companies, and bearing witness of one of the most consequential period of growth in China biopharma innovation. Over the last couple of years, as you know, China Bio Pioneer has really become the leading influential professional platform in these sectors. The industry context for this launch of international edition is really comparing. The China biopharma's ecosystem has really undergone a profound transformations. A cumulative license out deal, bioback bucks has already exceeded 100 billion. And also Chinese innovation is evolving from a pipeline source contributor to the co-creator of the global biopharma industry. So this is a wonderful time. However, there are still communication gaps exist. Many Western views on China bioinformatics, biopharma innovation really remains on the cost and speed. At the same time, I think in China biopharma executives, when they go to the global stage, they're really looking for a direct, substantive dialogue to understand more regarding the global stage. So that's the reason we want to launch this China Bio Pioneer series, international edition, to provide a platform, really enable the direction to communicate and force collaboration across the Pacific. So here, we formally launched the international edition of the China Bio Pioneer to really address this gap. And today's episode, as you can see, is focused on ADC with the theme on China with perspectives on innovation, globalization, and the next wave of ADC development. I'm very honored to have a very strong panelist with us. I think probably we will allow them to introduce themselves and their company first. Maybe let's start from Dr. Jiachang Cai, JQ. Would you mind to please introduce yourself and your company? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm Jiachang. I'm JQ. Yeah, so I'm a chemist by training. So I'm the co-founder and CSO and also co-CEO of MedLink. And before MedLink, I worked briefly for Hansoh, another Hong Kong-listed company, for nearly 2 years and on small molecule and drug discovery there. And before Hansoh, I worked for Cullen Pharmaceutical Institute, and where I was the head of small molecule research and development, also the head of the innovation center. And at Cullen, so I was working on the ADC with my colleagues there, and eventually, we have a TROP2 ADC licensed to Merck and a few years ago. And before that, I worked for WuXi Aptec, and before WuXi Aptec, I was employee of Merck, and Merck shut our site at Scotland, so that's why I came back to China, and so that's who I am. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, JQ. Dr. Ziyi Sui, would you mind to introduce yourself and the company?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ziyi Sui. I'm from Lepu Biopharma. I'm the CEO and Executive Director for Lepu Bio. And Lepu Bio is a company, it's a biotech focusing on developing innovative therapeutics for oncology, mainly IO therapy and as well as ADCs as targeted therapy. Our strategy is to combine IO and ADC as a target therapy for treatment of oncology. And we have successfully launched 2 programs in China commercially. One is a PD-1 as an anchor for IO, and the other is EGFR targeted ADC, which we got it approved late last year. And also we have got very differentiated pipeline focusing on different targets like tissue factor, GPC3, CDH17, Claudin 18.2. And our strategy is like we launch in China by ourselves, and also we work with a global partner for out licensing for other markets globally. And we're also working on different generations of payloads, such as first generation VCS MMAE and second generation Topo1, and also right now working on dual payloads and specific ADCs. And thank you for the invitation, and very happy to looking forward to the further discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds lots of things going on in Lepu. Next, Alex, would you mind to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks. My name is Alex Snyder. I lead discovery oncology and translational medicine at Merck. Whereas JQ mentioned, we have significant interest in oncology and specifically in antibody drug conjugates. Prior to Merck, I've been in biotech and also at Merck previously in the United States, and I'm a medical oncologist by training.
Thank you very much. Maybe Greg?
Great, thanks for having me today. I'm Greg Dwyer. I'm head of business development at Aurum Therapeutics. Aurum is a KOSDAQ listed company that has operations in both Daejeon, South Korea and Lexington, Massachusetts. We're best known as a pioneer in the degrader antibody conjugate space. There's a program in the clinic using our technology that we sold to Bristol Myers Squibb about 2.5 years ago. It's Aurum 6151. It's a CD33 GSPT1 conjugate in phase 1 for AML. We'll be putting a program into the clinic soon, filing an IND second half of this year. So that'll be our first. It'll be a wholly owned program of Aurum's that enters the clinic. It's a CD123 GSPT1 conjugate for hem-oncology, and then beyond that, we have several other programs and technologies that we're developing, all in the DAC space. My background is I've been working in the antibody drug conjugate space in BD for the past 15 years. First at ImmunoGen, I was there for 7 years. And involved in several of the programs, two now approved ADCs, pivekimab sunirine and Elahere, both now AbbVie programs. And after ImmunoGen, I went to Magenta Therapeutics, and I'm a chemist by training. Worked at Bristol Myers Squibb in research and development for 7 years, and then worked at DRG, which is now part of Clarivate, as a market research analyst and consultant. Then I moved to BD, and really pleased to be speaking about the ADC field with this really great group today. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, we were really looking forward to your insights, given your long history in the ADC and especially all these new wave of ADC, such as degrader ADC. Thanks. Finally, Anshu, would you mind to introduce yourself and the company?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. My name is Anshu Goyal. I am a co-founder and the CEO of Zion Therapeutics. Zion is a Boston-based company. It's a Harvard spinoff. My co-founders are 2 senior faculty members at the Harvard Brigham Medical School. And we are focused on one specific target, MUC1C, which is the oncogenic domain of MUC1. Our ADC drug is going to enter the clinic next month for the first time ever. And, we have had some early successes and partnerships, but what we are most excited about is the opportunity to target possibly 80+% of all solid tumor patients with this unique target, which very few people are working on actively. So that's our focus, and look forward to this discussion.
Thank you very much, Anshu. We're really happy to have all of you here, and let's dive into the discussion. So we choose the first episode on ADC definitely for some reason. As you know, ADC is actually a very unique modality, exemplify the rise of China biopharma innovation here. This is a latest data on the left side showing the China ADC by the development stage. Currently, there's more than 800 ADC candidates in the pipeline, and this is probably the largest ADC pipeline in all the regions. On the right side is summarizing the China ADC out licensing deals in the last 5-6 years, and you can see from starting 2019, 2020 has some few deals, but it did not become a phenomenon until probably 2022, 2023. We see the explosion of all these China ADC licensing on deals, reaching right now in 2025, the reported amount of all these deal size almost reached $40 billion. This is definitely a very exciting story. There are questions, opportunities we need to discuss, and probably starting from the first question is what China has done right to achieve this kind of success in such a short time, in just last 3-4 years. But of course, things probably need to go back to much longer. Probably the first question is to Ziyi, given the Lepu farmer, we understand that your ADC journey started almost 10 years ago when you acquired the Shanghai Miracogene, which is the ADC company. And I would love to understand, what the ADC landscape back then and what drive you to make that acquisition decision. And does everything pan out as expected? Thank you.
Thank you, Jiaming, for the question. Yeah, our first step for ADC started back in 2018 with our acquisition for Miracogene. And this acquisition was primarily driven by our oncology strategy, which was the combination of IO therapy and targeted therapy for oncology treatment. At that time, there was already emerging evidence that IO, specifically PD-1 inhibitors and ADCs, they could act synergistically. So that's also similar to the rationale we saw with the PD-1 plus oncolytic viruses. So the acquisition was our way of establishing a foothold in ADC technology as part of our strategy for oncology. And looking back, that vision has becoming the almost a new standards of care paradigm for oncology. And we're already seeing that not only ADCs have been approved in different indications across the board. And we also are seeing combination of ADC plus IO, like Nectin-4 ADC in UC, like what we have seen in just this month from ASCO, the PD-1 plus TROP2 ADC. So the combination now becomes the standard of therapy. And other than that, also, we are seeing the field are evolving into what we call ADC IO plus IO 2.0, which there are more and more bispecifics, ADC plus bispecific IO are coming to the stage. So we see the trend is happening as we have visioned back in 2018 and are happening in a more speedy way, very fast into the 2.0 generation. So we're very excited to be part of it, and we are seeing that this whole therapeutic paradigm is shifting. Yeah, from chemo plus IO to ADC plus IO, and even more generations are evolving for bispecifics. Jiaming.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think this is definitely a long journey. Just try to ask the follow-up question is, anything surprised you in the especially China ADC exploration, and especially what do you feel like could be the driver for this kind of success, at least in the out licensing? Anything you would like to share?
Yeah, I think, of course, the accumulation of the antibody engineering, and also, I think, take the appreciation of the topo-1 payload sprouts. I think that's a very key opportunity that the Chinese industry, biotech, has taken, that for the ADC generations. And other than that, I think the key success factors also along the way were the critical target selection. That's very important. And you have seen that TROP2 ADC, as well as the bispecifics like EGFR HER3 ADCs, and also the next generations very interesting targets like CDH70, like MARK1. And I think this target selection is very important for the success of ADCs. And also, like I have mentioned, taking into the advantage of topo-1 inhibitor as the payloads, also very helpful for so many ADCs emerging in the last 8 to 5 years. Yeah. And I think the third is the ADC technology keeps emerging for the last few years, like site-specific conjugation, like what MedLink have done. Yeah, the environmental cleavage linkage technology platform. I think all these different technologies also contribute to the partnerships, as well as the contribution for the Chinese biotech industry to the global world.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you already mentioned about the MedLink, so we probably will give the next question to JQ. We know that MedLink is relatively young biotech in China, but already achieved successful BD deals with MNC, several deals done. And also, personally, you actually has involved in ADC, I think, much longer, starting, like early, even than current stage. Yeah, would you mind to share your views, insights on how Chinese ADC industry has, become such kind of success story? What's the drivers you see?
Yeah, and so I started working on ADC back in 2016, and when I was the head of the R&D at Colon. And so initially the reason for getting into ADC, because Roche got the HER2 ADC and approved in 2013, and so many Chinese companies tried to get a me too, and that's the starting point. And quickly, we realized that the HER2 ADC, that it's not a good one to me too, and very difficult. And by 2016, and so we were started working on ADC. We are really under high pressure, and so not everybody liked the ADC idea. And so I was working on small molecule, and my colleague and Tony Tony Xie, and he was the head of biologics at Colon at the time. And by chance, I heard they're doing ADCs. I said, where do you get linker payload from? They said they're going to buy it. I said, who's going to sell you the linker payload? Nobody has it. And so let's work together and so on ADC. That's where we started. And the high pressure initially, and even difficult to find a chemist and who is willing to work on ADC programs. And there are all kinds of reasons of this toxic, and all different things. And eventually, so we managed to get on really well. And so we saw the data from the immunomedics, and that very unstable ADC. And so we said, can we improve it, make a half-life longer, and so on, and replace the payload? And that's SN38 got a lot of diarrhea issues. It has been reported as SN38 for that, and so we worked on it, and so eventually we find a molecule and much longer half-life, and we don't need that SN38 as a payload. It potentially could remove the GI toxicity issues, and so that's why we started. But when we started, and the Western countries like Pfizer, like many big pharmas, they are shutting down their ADC programs because they find ADC is difficult to work with. And probably, so we get into at the right time, and we have right people, and so a right place, because and so that's the reason. I mean, right timing, because immunomedics and Daiichi Sankyo, they got this top-1 based ADC, and just moved to clinic. We just got it right in time, 2016, 2017. That's a very good timing, and right people. And we have lots of CROs in China. We have lots chemists, medicinal chemists come from the West country, like myself, and I worked for Merck for 14 years. So I got a lot of training from there, and there are lots kind of and people came from the West and came to China, and and also the China that time, and put that way, people getting wealthier, and the eating is not an issue anymore. So everybody looking for medicines to treat cancer, and before there's no cancer drug available in China, nearly everything has come from the West. And so at right timing, right people, right place, and we got this going on, and so that's, I believe that's the reason we are kind of, and nothing is more important than right timing.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned the right timing, because I know back in maybe 2016, that time, before HER2, which really redefined the ADC, there are questions and doubts regarding how ADC can sustain, right, can really contribute. And so that's give you the China industry has the opportunity window, doesn't have to compete that much, because the Western world probably slow down the development of ADC. You also mentioned about the talents, right? We have more trained chemistry specialists or other biological specialists come back to China, get into the development. And they also mentioned about the ecosystem in China at that time, right? Investors start to move into the pharmaceutical industry because they're looking forward to address the unmet need in China for oncology development. So all these key factors work together to build a foundation for things. Maybe one quick question, because I know you are a chemist, and I also heard some a reason why ADC is so popular in China. They say because ADC is a very complicated, require antibody, linker and payload, also require multiple function team, not only biologics but also chemistry and even CMC. So it's more like a triathlon match. So China may not be the best swimmer or may not be the best runner. However, given the multiple facts required in the ADC, China has decent capability on each category. So give them the unique opportunity to develop ADC. What do you think about this kind of view? And do you feel like that could be the reason making ADC become a unique modality for China biotech to succeed in?
Yeah, we have a chemist on link payload. We have biologics, and there are so many biologics and biotech in China that can develop easily, get this antibody we needed. And so And so yeah, so we have everything together and at the time, and it's quite straightforward. But yeah, talking about MedLink back in 2020, at that time the understanding of the ADC is very different from today. At that time we have Daiichi Sankyo and this GGFG linker payload. We have Immunomedics, this CL2A, and a quite unstable link payload. And when we started at MedLink, we were thinking, Daiichi Sankyo, that link payload is really highly lipophilic, and we see issues in the lab, and we see the solubility, we see all sorts of issues. And so as a chemist, I really don't like, I didn't like that kind of physical properties. I said we can do better. And the CL2A from the Immunomedics, and of course, and the cooling also used the similar technology, but improved half-life. I do see issues as well, because half-life is a little bit short and just a little bit over 2 days after a lot of optimizations. And so I feel we can do something better. We can do something and better physical properties. And at the time, I also had a feeling the Daiichi Sankyo molecule, GGFG, could be extracellular cleavage, because they said HER2 low, HER2 zero can have efficacy. I said that must be extracellular. And so that's my initial understanding. And so that's why I said, can we improve it? And so improve the extracellular cleavage. And but when we got ours, we find our molecule really has the capability of extracellular cleavage, stable in circulation. But when we tried the Daiichi Sankyo GGFG molecule, and yeah, it's you do need the internalization for that molecule. Actually, obviously the understanding is not right. And then after a while, today we see so many ADCs, and the efficacy, clinical efficacy, has nothing to do with target expression level. And there are a lot of questions to be answered, and what's the real mechanism. But certainly, and so we achieved a lot today, and we have a better understanding than before, but still so much we don't know. And yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, you mentioned about, probably lots of iteration required to really answer so many questions in ADC, as you mentioned, right? The target expression level may not really correlate to the final efficacy. People still wonder why, but I think from your MedLink adventure, seems like you can very quickly really focus on these questions, and you have done lots of clinical programming in that one. Thank you so much. So now we probably already hear the China's perspective, what their history experience for this ADC, right? Now we will switch probably to the Alex, given that Merck is the, I think, big collaborator with China biotechs using, for example, the sac-TMT. From the latest ASCO post-ASCO events, we understand that the Merck is already looking forward to ongoing 17 phase 3 global trials for sac-TMT. Really, I would say heavily invest in these assets, but at the same time, we understand Merck is sourcing from all over the world, already have collaborations, ADCs from other countries, innovation. So we would love to hear, Alex, your view. What do you see? Anything unique about Chinese ADCs? Any comments? Any key advantages you saw? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Jimin. And as you said, our North Star is bringing the best possible therapies to patients. And so we both develop those internally and look externally around the world to see where those might be. I'll highlight our collaboration with Kelun as a particularly fruitful one, as you noted. And I think there are at least 4 reasons why that collaboration has been so positive, and those reasons are things that we could extend to other collaborations. So the first is technology, quality, speed, and collaborative spirit. So going through all of those with sac-TMT, as you mentioned as an example, it has this unique belotecan-derived topoisomerase 1 inhibitor payload, as well as this linker technology that is also unique. And we think that combination of technologies is part of what has made the data so promising so far. Essentially, the idea is to get a good balance between stability, so you don't get payload falling off in the periphery, while making sure you get high amounts of delivery in the tumor, and you maintain the potential for bystander effect. So
Yeah.
those aspects are what I would highlight in the technology. Of course, there are other ways to advance technology, and we'll get to those later. But that has been a highlight of the collaboration. In terms of the quality and the speed, by quality, I mean everything from the molecule to the clinical execution, to the quality of the people working on the molecule. And speed, I think you've all seen as you mentioned, the Optitrope 5 results that were presented at ASCO. Which I think is a display of those three attributes: the technology, the quality, and the speed, all coming together to yield what looked like really quite exciting results for patients. And then the last piece, which I think is hard to measure, but is so important, is a genuine collaborative spirit. As you noted earlier, when you're many time zones apart and perhaps from various different cultures, that could be a challenge. But in this collaboration, the collaborative spirit has made it seem like we're right next door to each other in terms of our relationship. So I would say those four attributes are things that we look for as we collaborate with others.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I love your summary regarding all these four reasons. I think it's glad to hear that you also mentioned the collaboration spirits. One thing you mentioned about is, of course, the ASCO data from China. And one question we have is, we know that many Chinese ADC companies really has a very broad and fast clinical development in China. I assume all these data, especially even though there's a regional specific, they may have different kind of patient population, but does provide safety information and some a readout for what could be for the global trial. Just wonder how important it is to get these kind of China readout for big pharmas like Merck in their decision or in their own development strategy.
Thanks, Chairman. I agree completely with the way that you characterized it, where certainly there are some region-specific attributes to results, but I think directionally, in terms of both safety and efficacy, the themes that we learn in trials that are conducted in China are often applicable globally. Of course, we have to do the global studies to see where they are and aren't applicable. But generally speaking, I think having even if it's China-only data is really very de-risking and important.
I see. Thank you very much. Yeah. So now probably we want to also hear from the US biotech perspective. For example, Greg, we already know that you spent like decades in the ADC space. You probably also still remember when JQ mentioned about the doubts on ADCs back that when companies are really reduced investment in the ADC. So what, in your perspective, you see make the success or the rise of China in ADC? Anything you would like to share?
Yeah, thank you. I think JQ hit actually a lot of the points I was going to make already, but I think there was three things I was thinking about about this question, and I think the first thing is, just I think China's initial efforts in drug development. Obviously there was a shift from kind of generics medicine to more innovative medicines, but really focusing on kind of me too or bio betters. And I think the ADC space is really a great fit for that approach, because you mentioned the various elements that go into an ADC. So there are a lot of design variables that can be modified and improved. And I think certainly some of those first generation ADCs that were successful and got approved still had a lot of room for improvement. And I think JQ described it nicely that I think many companies in China got initial success by looking at better antibodies, better linkers, and that led to some early momentum in the space in China. The second is really a very deep talent pool. So, I think JQ is a great example again. Someone who had experience at a multinational pharmaceutical company, returning to China, initially working maybe for a CRO or a CDMO in the ADC space, providing services to multinational companies, and then realizing that they had the ability to innovate and move and spin out on their own and create companies and develop innovative medicines. So really leveraging their experience at multinationals to take advantage of the environment in China when starting companies became more viable and capital became available to them. And then lastly, what was just alluded to, there's the clinical trial infrastructure has improved greatly. And I think, again, the success more recently in the ADC space has been with the Topo1 payload class, which is a great fit for many solid tumors. There's obviously a huge patient population in China. So getting clinical trials enrolled quickly and getting human data with these new molecules was very realistic and actually did happen in China. So I think those three factors really helped the acceleration of the ADC field in China over the past decade. And of course now the government is putting tremendous support behind biotech industry. So there's just been great momentum that's been gathered by these factors over the past 10 years.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I also like you point out that the ADC modality has so many things, components could be improved. So I think that could be the reason in China, as I mentioned, has the right talents really focus on, and also has the clinical infrastructure, allow quick trials and enough patient base to enroll, really speed up the iteration cycle and give them the chance to compete globally. So
Yes.
Finally, Anshu, so try to understand, what do you see, and in your view, what's the China ADC rise, and also anything that means to your company? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. China's ADC rise seems like an overnight success because we see the headlines hitting, large deals announced by Pfizer recently, and so on and so forth. But I always remember Steve Jobs' line, and JQ brought up this point: overnight success stories take a long time. And China's success has been built over the last 10 to 20 years. And we're just beginning to see the results of it. I think this will continue. As a biotech company in US, I could say selfishly that I wish China was not as strong and the Chinese companies were not as aggressive in competition, but it's for the good. It is for the good of humanity. And this is a trend that is likely to continue for a long, long time. From our perspective, we work actively with Chinese companies. Now, Chinese companies are a source of IP. Like right now, the focus has been how Chinese companies have been just licensing their stuff, but I see Chinese companies will be, the biotech companies will be doing more and more co-marketing deals. They'll be doing, in the next 5 to 7 years, there will be a drug that will come out of China and be marketed directly by Chinese companies. For us, currently, China is a source of not just services, it's also a source of IP, better linkers, better payloads, experiments in what new modalities can be or improvements to our existing modalities can be. So that's how we are working with China. And we look forward to working with different Chinese companies over time.
Thank you, Anshu, and thank you for your candid statement. Yeah, we all know that as an individual company, right, you're always under the pressure from the peers. How do they develop? But the same time, as you mentioned, the ultimate goal for us to get into the industry is really for the benefit of the patients. There is no boundary, right? There's no country definition. Any innovation from any region could really benefit for patients all over the globe. So thanks so much, and it's great to already hear so many insights on how China has rise and some of the drivers from Eastern and from Western perspective. That's definitely wonderful. The fourth question, probably we want to understand more regarding the difference, especially on ADC development strategy difference between China or ex-China, or if there's any one. So maybe there are, we heard about some key elements already. We heard about speed. We heard about clinical trial infrastructure. But there are maybe some things we heard other people mention, like cost, efficiency, or any other components. So maybe we can start from MedLink, JQ. Maybe from your perspective, especially in new biotech, MedLink experience in very short time. I think with a couple years, you already have a 10 clinical program ongoing, right? And have already done a few big deals, all things. So what's your strategy and especially what you view a unique China strategy for ADC companies? Thank you. JQ, do you want to unmute yourself?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so
No
so
problem.
when MedLink started, so our view is very certain. ADC is a very good modality for anti-cancer, and it can reduce the tumor size really quickly. So that's the view I have very strongly. And what we want to do, we want to have something very stable linker in circulation, but have a tumor-specific cleavage, and like extracellular cleavage. That's the initial idea, and so I didn't expect I get one like that. We had a lot of Me Too programs in our pipeline, but Me Too, I mean, I don't want GGFG. I just feel it's not the physical property, just not what I wanted. I want something more water soluble, more hydrophilic. That's the idea. But same time, I'm aiming for extracellular cleavage, like I said earlier, and I guessed. And the GGFG might be one of that, but it's not. And so we are very focused. We want to quickly have a product and into clinic. So as soon as I got a new link payload and much better, have a better property than Daiichi Sankyo's, and so we bought the B7-H3 antibody from the other biologics companies, biotechs. So we use our link payload, and we sourced all different antibody from different partners, and we assembled quickly 10 assets. And from these 10 assets, and so we kept some ourselves. We licensed some to others because we simply cannot do that many. And so that's our strategy, and focus on the product, and so that's what we were working for. Yeah. So yeah.
I see. Thanks. So what I hear is you already say that given your previous experience, you really see the opportunity to improve the linker, right? That's very important. And then maybe because it's in the China ecosystem, so it's easy for you to just source antibody choice, right?
Yeah.
Test, assemble different products, just make sure they can work as you expected, probably in the preclinical setting. And then amazingly, you mentioned you put them quickly into the patients. That probably thanks to what Greg mentioned about the clinical trial infrastructures. Likely, I think 10 clinical program is very expensive in a Western perspective if they want to launch. But in China, likely because the cost, also because the patient availability, all things will enable you to really move 10 assets, get into the clinical. So that sounds like you can get clinical data really to validate, to give you a real important information. Then you can decide the next step, which to pruning, which one to success. Is that my understanding correct?
Yeah, that's right. And so when we had a new link payload, a novel link payload, extracellular cleavage, but we were really worried. I said, will that work? And so many people said that will be toxic, and because it cleaves extracellularly, and
Yeah.
so we are not certain. So many programs we license our own peanuts potentially, and like DLS3 we give to their lab, and we also have two programs, 18.2 and that tissue factor and to evil point. And that is different because when we started, we don't have any cash. So they said we give you 10 million renminbi, yeah, and I said. But if you are successful, you get a link payload. You have to give me two programs for free. So that's the 18.2 and tissue factor that evil point got that way. So no milestones, no anything. 10 million Chinese renminbi, like $1.5 million. They got two assets from us, and then we had lots of others. But when by 2023, then we had some earlier readout from the clinic, and then we become confident. So this really works, and so that then we started. So we start build more programs, and currently we have 14 clinical assets in our pipeline using T-Marlin platform, and so some more coming, some more, and they are file IND at the moment. So that's that's the story behind it.
Great. Yeah. I love this kind of detail and the story. So we understand, right? As the new biotech, you have to try anyway to sustain the company moving forward. But there's one thing very interesting from your insights. You leveraging the BD deals to allow your partner to put these assets into clinical stage, so that can really prove provide the proof of concept that will actually de-risk your whole platform and increase the value of your company. But that also comes to the requirement for this ecosystem, because other biotech need to be able to willing to try and move them into clinical stage very quickly. So that kind of help each other. They, of course, like Eva point, they get a bargain, right, for your program, but at the same time, they help you to de-risk your platform and increase your value successful very quickly. Very interesting, very good to understand that one. Thanks.
1 minute.
Go ahead.
Can you add something more? And
sure.
When we started, we don't have anything yet. We don't have money. We don't have a link payload. And we already bought 16 monkeys and ready for GLP talks. And we bought a second-hand and a 200-liter reactor as well for 1.5 million renminbi, very cheap anyway. It's if it's new, it will be 5 times than that. So potentially we get everything ready for link payload too. So we have to get something by middle 2021. We started end of 2020, and we have to get something by 2021, regardless of what it is. And it's me too or me better or something. And so that's how we position ourselves. Speed is the most important thing for us and in our mind at that time. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really hear the entrepreneur spirit here, right? You don't have anything, you already buy 16 monkeys, prepare for the GLP talks. Yeah. We admire these kind of spirits, but at the same time, what I hear is there are definitely lots of pressure for the China biotechs to success very quickly, right? The environment is not that tolerable for long term. You have to succeed within a short time period. So maybe what we see, the speed of China is the top crop of companies who are able to succeed, but there may be lots of companies may not be able to manage that pressure or lucky enough to have the breakthrough. But this is such a large ecosystem in China, so this is a brutal competition in certain ways, but also force the best company to standing out in China. So really appreciate you sharing these stories. Maybe this is a good time to ask Greg, especially you have such a long experience in the ADC biotech in the US, and you are now also still in a US Korean biotech. You understand all the pressure I think Jackie just mentioned. So what did you see the difference, and what kind of strategy in your company or in your former companies you think that's different from China's, especially Jackie's story?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I think at Orem, I think I mentioned we're headquartered in Korea. All of our funding has come from Korea. So initially through private investors, and now we're a KOSDAQ listed company. So I think we still have some of the same technical challenges that JQ mentioned. We're trying to develop new payload technologies. So obviously we've had to take some risk, and think about collaborative structures that monetarily may not be maximizing the deal value, but the value is in getting the idea moved forward through a partnership and allowing the partner to help validate that idea. That's extremely valuable, and allows you, if successful, allows you a greater degree of flexibility for future deals or fundraising. So that we've taken that approach as well. I think one difference we maybe have is so I think our strategy was, as a Korean biotech, I think Korean biotechs, at least when Orem started, faced a different challenge in that there's a lot of really exciting science coming, but the kind of translational and early development capabilities within Korea were not as mature. They're maturing, of course, now, but at the time were not so mature. So that's when our CEO took the decision to start our US site, to take advantage of more kind of drug development and early clinical capabilities that exist in the Cambridge ecosystem. So myself, I'm based in Cambridge, or excuse me, Lexington now. Our chief medical officer's here, our chief scientific officer's here. So all experienced drug developers, and that was Orem's strategy, is to leverage that experience to get programs from idea to the clinic. I think where we have difficulty matching China biotech is the scale and speed aspect. And I think the point that was just brought up about how there's just so many companies and it's a pressure cooker, so you have to move quick or else you don't succeed. Certainly we face that pressure as well, but maybe to a lesser degree. So focus has really been on knowing what we do well and really investing heavily in maximizing that versus trying to do many things quickly. We try to move quickly, of course, but we have to be focused and not get distracted by other things that are going on in the field. We have a few payload technologies that we're working on. We want to make sure we understand how those payload technologies work, what context will they work in, and really maximizing the value through understanding our technology with depth. And that's the way we're going to win versus competing on with our Chinese peers, because we know they can do things very quickly and at a lower cost than we can. So we have to remain focused on what we do best.
Thank you. Maybe another strategic difference maybe I see is, of course, JQ, they really focus on all these new assets, but at the same time, they are mainly to improving all the linker to, I would say, maybe stepwise improvement, but your company is really looking for the innovative degrader, right? To use the degrader, which hasn't fully been validated, honestly, right, in the approved market yet. So you are taking this maybe a higher risk but a higher reward approach. Is my understanding correct?
I think so. I think that's true. I think if you look at our lead payload technology, which is a GSPT1 molecular glue degrader, yes, it's new in the payload context, but that is a mechanism that has been in the clinic through some small molecule molecular glue degraders, notably one CC 90009, which was in development. There's a Celgene BMS molecule being developed for AML. And back in 2020, they actually published EHA showing responses in AML patients, but effectively no therapeutic window. So actually, that made our research team take note that this is a really good mechanism of action that probably needs better delivery, and potentially an antibody could give that better delivery and give you a therapeutic window for this target. So that was kind of the origin of our focus on GSPT1. Is it had some clinical validation, but again, it can be improved upon. So yes, there's risk, but we thought it was measured risk, and yes, it still needs to be proven. We haven't yet shown any data that has shown success in the clinic, but hopefully that will come soon, either through our own program or through the BMS molecule that's in the clinic now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a calculated risk taking, and
Yeah.
hopefully to get a bigger reward. Thanks.
That's right.
Yeah, very great to have two biotech across the Pacific to understand their different strategy. Now I probably open to the panel, maybe Alex and Shu and Z. Anything you want to add? Anything you hear from these two stories? What do you feel about the difference in the development strategy for China ADC versus probably Western part? Anyone volunteers? Yeah, Alex. See, you're unmuted.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jimin. So I've been thinking about it since you initially asked, and I think I would, in my mind, I separate out the sort of operational pieces from the scientific pieces. And in the scientific pieces, what we're seeing is a tremendous diversity of thinking around the globe. And so I haven't seen that, one place is thinking of all the solutions or none of the solutions, but rather just a myriad that are being addressed. So within those, I would say there's, as we've discussed, the linker payload aspects, the post-topo1 MMAE payload aspects, the target aspects. So the field has really been working on a fairly narrow set of antigens, expanding beyond those and/or looking at particular epitopes or cleavage sites, as our colleagues at Zion are doing. And amongst all those things, addressing the therapeutic index, which I think if we had to zoom out is the biggest scientific problem. And then something we haven't talked about, but I think all of us are working on, is how we select patients for a therapy that actually has multiple mechanisms in one. Maybe we can come back to that later. So from a scientific perspective, I think there's a great diversity of thought going on both inside of China and outside. From an operational perspective, as Greg alluded to, I think right now our colleagues in China, both at MSD China as well as in China Biotech and Pharma, are just doing a tremendous job of advancing therapies swiftly and with quality. And I forget who said it, but every overnight success is built upon years of hard work. And I think this situation is no exception. So those are sort of the buckets in which I think about what's going on in China and around the world in this space.
Yeah, I think that's Anshu's comments regarding the overnight success. I totally agree with him. Yeah. JQ, you omitted anything you want to add?
No, not really. I think the ADC is something, and we see it's certainty. It's different from small molecule, different from the antibody and the drug themselves, and the ADC is kind of thing really certain. But the question today is, somebody said that there's 300 ADCs and topo-based ADCs in clinic, but they're all using topo1 inhibitor. That's the issue, and so one TROP2 from the Merck and can cover so many different indications, and the second one you need to compete with that one, and then we have B7-H3, and we see B7-H3 also a broad spectrum anti-cancer drug, and it can cover so many different indications, and potentially B7-H3 with a topo1 you try on small cell lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, and ovarian cancer and breast cancer, everything. It works on every tumor types. And so that worries me. And there are far too many topo-based ADC. And someone like Merck, they're so far ahead of anyone else. And when we got some sense that we say better, but you need to prove it in clinic. And how do we do that? And there are lots of challenges ahead. Yeah.
Always. Yeah, you mentioned a very important drug resistant for this topo 1 payload. Yeah, that is something I think almost every company ADC is looking forward to solve that problem. Thanks. And Anshu and Zi, anything you want to add before we move to the next topic?
No, I don't have more to add. Yeah, very, very great discussion.
Thank you. Anshu?
Just adding to what Alex said and Dr. JQ said, and others, there is a lot of work to be done in the ADC space. We know that. We know the problems that you highlighted. The thing, I came from outside this industry. I don't have a background in the space, but the thing that really stuck me is that we know that even the successful approved marketed ADCs, like Enhertu and others, deliver less than 2% of the drug to the tumor. The rest 98% is basically either wasted or causes side effects or whatever. We don't even know what happens. I am just reminded of Elon Musk. He went public last week, right? $2 trillion SpaceX company market valuation. We all know about that. If he had told us that, hey, I will launch 100 rockets into space and maybe 2 of them will make it, and the other 98, I don't know anything. What will that company be worth? Nobody would even look at it. And we are at that space. So this is very, very early stages. We need China, we need US, we need everybody in the world to be improving this. It's a long, long way to go. That's all I had to add. So thank you.
Thank you, Anshu. You always provide actual wisdom to our discussion. I like you mentioned. Yeah, there are so many things. And no, I think they say medicine is a practical business. Whatever works, it works. We sometimes don't have the energy or time or resource to fully figure out what exactly happened. We just rush to the patients, make sure they get better. But totally agree. There are so many things we can do, and we really need everyone in the system, in the industry to contribute. Thanks. Now, I think we move to the next topic. We already hear, many things about clinical infrastructure. We're talking about operational efficiencies. And there are one point is someone already mentioned the CDMO, CRO structure in China, given that China has already built a very strong CDMO, CRO service. It does help probably China industry, but of course also global wise. So how important it is, especially for ADC, given that we know there are so many chemical engineers involved in this modality. How important is the ADC manufacturing, CMC controls become a strategic difference? Maybe start from Anshu this time, given that you are, as a company probably leveraging the external CDMO capability to help your company to get these ADC manufacturing. So how important do you think this is? And anything you see the difference in China versus other places?
So, we are a biotech company, very small, completely focused on research, and we don't have any of our own CDMO abilities, so nor were we planning to build it. So CDMO, partnering with a good CDMO was critical. It's critical to get any kind of regulatory permissions, the INDs, just to start clinical trials, and it's critical to meet timelines, it's critical to meet cost, it's critical to meet quality timelines, quality issues. So all of those for us are a make and break. We are going into humans, so this is not something where you can cut corners and it's how expensive delays are in this space from a competition perspective as well as time perspective. So for us, that was a big deal. We evaluated companies around the world, all the major players in the ADC space, both on cost, timeline, and ability perspective. And we were very happy with the final CDMO we ended up selecting. It is a Chinese company. And for us, we feel that not having the right CDMO would be a huge disadvantage, a huge disadvantage. So for us, this was critical. And having a Chinese company available to us, which could deliver it in the timeline and the cost that we needed, was a big advantage.
I see. Thank you. I totally understand as all the biotech, right? We always want to do more with less, and with China's CDMO, provide, like you mentioned, timely service with affordable price, definitely enable more biotechs to touch the ADC space to really potentially contribute to this space. Maybe a question to Ziye. I think we understand Lerpu already launched ADC in the China market, and you also announced you're going to build a manufacturing facility in Shanghai to enable more ADC manufacturing. So you must have a good insight on all these CMC requirement, manufacturing requirement, and how important the CDMO for the ADC development and the commercialization. Would you mind to share your view and insight?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Jiaming. It's a very good one. Since our ADC's stage spans from PCC IND to commercialization. So we did work with many CDMOs in China and for different pipelines. And we think definitely CMC is crucial and important for speed and execution delivery, and also especially for the NDA stage. Yeah, so given the Chinese regulatory requirement of just last year, the openness of the segmented manufacture policy just in the trial period. So we were among the first few companies who experienced this policy's initial trial period. So since our like IMH is in Shanghai and our CDMOs, we initially launched the MRG03, the EGFR ADC by CDMO, and there were small molecule manufacturer and also the like antibody manufacturer and DSDP manufacturer. They're from two different provinces in Hubei and Jiangsu. So we had the experience of working with all three provincial like regulatory authorities for this like license acquisition. So this is quite complex and takes a lot of time and efforts working and alignment of different provincial authorities. So I think after a certain period, after this initial trial periods, the government and authority have accumulated extensive experience. We anticipate a more and more openness of these regulations. And maybe in the near future, we can foresee that more provinces can launch and also participate into the segmented manufacture, or more open of the policies could enable more ADC biotechs or CDMOs can participate in the whole procedure. And other than that, we think CMC definitely is very important. We always appreciate CMC importance by having our own PD and AD team, and also have a deep understanding of the CQAs and also the different features of different molecules. So that really is important, especially after the commercialization of the molecule with a quality control, and also like closely working together with CDMO, but also have own team to can monitor and take great cautious about the batch to batch quality is very important, even post-marketing. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, thank you. I understand your company have to invest, right, has your own manufacturing facility, make sure that you can control the quality and also likely reduce the cost to improve the profit for your company. Thanks. Maybe a question to Alex. We understand, my memory is when you had signed a deal with Current, the Current provided all these drugs, the SAC-TMT for development of things. Just try to understand how important is these CMC qualities, and especially in your making a deal or in your future development for all these ADCs. Thanks.
Thanks. It's such an important question, and I'll answer it generally rather than specific to Kellen. So I would say quality is the most important above all, because without that, nothing else matters in some senses. After quality, from the options you put, speed and cost of goods are both very important. Others that I might add are flexibility. So when a program accelerates or decelerates, it's tremendously helpful if our CDMO partner is able to accommodate that. As you know, if something happens in a program, you could suddenly end up with a 6-month change from what you originally intended. And we try and we really appreciate it when our CDMO partners are able to sort of shift things around to make that work. And then the other thing I'll highlight is capacity for the stage of development, whether you're just running into phase 1 or gearing up for a global phase 3, the needs are very different. So that aspect of partnership is also really important.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is definitely a complex but very critical in the ADC development. Yeah. Greg and JQ, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think Alex already mentioned, and Ziye also mentioned the regulatory and so the ADC is something new for the regulatory agencies, and so they are not so confident and like small molecules we did in the past 10 years or so in China, and so they are kind of highly and the segmented manufacturer and can we do that? And the regulatory agency are thinking really hard about that. And so obviously quality is very important for the agency, and that's in their mind. I can understand. And so that's one thing. Another thing is the speed. And in the past, and 10 years ago, small molecule, it will take like from the clinic to approval, probably 7 to 10 years or even longer. And so you have enough time to prepare for the manufacture phase and the pivotal trials. And today, when we get to the clinical trial at day 1, and so we are aiming for approval in 5 years, within 5 years. That puts so much pressure on manufacturing. And so you have to phase 1, phase 2, and as soon as you get the phase 2 results are good enough, then we move to phase 3. And then where is your the product for pivotal trial, and where is your and the production for commercial supply? So that's all under pressure. Also, ADC is much more complex than small molecule and antibody and as well. So that's putting even more pressure on the ADC. So very fast speed and cause so much problem for ADC manufacturing. And then come to the third point, it's the supply chain safety. And so we outsource the manufacturing to CDMO. And how can we guarantee, and that's the future, like Alex said, and do they really have flexibility when we want to produce more? They have capability for that. And so that's all under question. And so, yeah, CDM is something currently we are working on, and probably we need a few more years, and probably we build our own manufacturing and for ourselves and for the safety, for the supply chain and the safety reasons. Yeah, and so this is even harder than early research at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Implementation, I think, as you're talking about the pressure from regulatory and supply, speed, all things really, all point to a good CDMO supplier partner. And ideally, right, every biotech want to have build their own internal capacity, but it does take time and also resource. And meanwhile, a good partner, if you can identify will definitely hugely support the company's development.
Yeah,
Greg, anything you want to add? Okay.
Yeah, I add
Go
one
ahead.
more. If you have
Sure.
like 3 or 4 or 5 products, and then you can build your own manufacturing. If you got only one product, that's not worth it.
Yes.
It's not going to be cost effective. So we still need to rely on the CDMO to help us. And so yeah, lots of challenges. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, Greg, anything you want to add?
Yeah, the manufacturing, I think, is one area where there's been so significant changes over my time in the ADC field. When I started at Immunogen, effectively, we had our own drug substance manufacturing plant because in Immunogen's early days, there were no CDMOs that were willing to handle highly potent molecules and conjugate them. So we actually built our own facility. And then, of course, now there's so many capable partners. But I want to maybe re-emphasize Anshu's point that manufacturing is the biggest cost and risk for an early stage biotech partner. So I think our focus is really on doing it as efficiently, both from a cost and time perspective, as possible. And this is where Chinese CDMOs have really taken a leadership position, offering end-to-end services, and I think that's really important for early stage companies to be able to leverage one entity for multiple components. Orem has done it both ways, actually, but I think we're now kind of moving to a model where working with an end-to-end provider is essential because it's complex. Things do happen, and if your antibody manufacturing timeline slips, you want to have a single partner who can kind of make the other pieces fall into place. That allows us to kind of keep a lean internal team and work efficiently as possible. So, of course, other companies have followed suit. Especially in Korea, Samsung and Celltrion have developed strong capabilities, but China has really been a leader in kind of the integrated services for CDMOs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you mentioned about the end-to-end capacity. I think that is probably very critical, as you mentioned. Any steps could go wrong, and you require such kind of end-to-end CDMO partner to absorb all these changes or setbacks and make sure that still can be able to deliver the final timeline to ensure the success next step, fundraise, all the things for the biotech. And this is, as you mentioned, the largest cost and also the risk, which cannot be controlled by the biotech alone. They really need to rely on a good, trustworthy partner to help them carry it over. Thanks a lot. Really, it's a great to hear all your perspective. And then now probably let's move to the very important topic, last topic. We already heard many good things about Chinese ADC industry. They have achieved a lot, but there are definitely a place, still a barrier or headwinds they need to focus on to improve. So what is the challenges we see so far for the Chinese ADC industry? Anything they think they still need to work on to improve, to get into the next stage, and even fully integrate into the global stage? So maybe from JQ, you are veteran in the China ADC industry. You definitely know where are still the shortcomings or barriers you see for Chinese ADC company really to get into the global stage. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the ADC, the drug development is different from the AI, artificial intelligence. Our drug, you are approved in China, and if you don't do anything in US, don't do anything in Europe, that means there's no same drug there and a different AI, you got a server anywhere, and so everywhere in the world people can access the potentially in milliseconds, and so it's totally different story. So and the other product and medicine and we have the market in China, but the the U.S. market is still controlled by these big pharmas, and Pfizer, Merck, and Lilly, and so on. And so unless we can auto-license our product to them, their help to the development and clinical trials and to the marketing. Otherwise, we only have a product in China. So the collaboration between biotech and the multinationals is we don't have a choice, and potentially for a small biotech like us, and so that's the only way forward. So maybe we can keep our rights in China, but overseas rights, we needed to do some the collaboration. Either the kind of standard, we have a small percentage of royalty, and or we have a kind of that's called a co-development, and but then we need a biotech need to put a large amount of cash into it, but can we afford it? And that's so many questions. Yeah, but what I try to say is the big market is still U.S., Europe, they're controlled by big pharma. And in China, we try to do anything we can to help the patient in China, make sure they have the accessible to these anti-cancer drugs and a good cheap price, and then we are not going to make a big profit. As for the ADC, I think a topo-based ADC, I think that's it, and I don't believe there are going to be more topo-based ADC going to clinic. You can develop make an ADC like the Anshu said, can we reduce the toxicity? Maybe we can, and but we need to try. But that's probably a long shot. And yeah, ADC, topo-based ADC, I think they're planting in the clinical now. And so yeah, how the big pharma like Merck already got so many and so advanced, and we are doing in China as well, we're advanced as well. So yeah, so we will see. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned about the as a MedLink biotech, right? You can only by licensing your assets to big farmers to enable the benefit for patients outside China, because most of China companies don't have the capability for commercialization ex-China. I think definitely this is a obvious a gap for the next step development. Talking on that topic, probably Ziyi has more experience given that you already commercialized the EGFR ADC on the China market. You probably have really experienced all these up and downs and challenges for commercialization, and also love to hear your views, and especially probably JQ mentioned, do you have the ambition to go ex-China, and what's the barrier you see for the China ADC companies?
Yeah, right now we're still focusing in China for commercialization. We're still working on it. A long way to go, even for China itself. Yeah, and our also similar with JQ, our primary globalization strategy remains as BD out licensing, and that will continue to be the case for the near term. But we're also actively exploring a phase 2 clinical development path for MRG-003 in Europe, and we're also same time open to pursue some market-specific clinical or regulatory filings when the opportunity is right. And I think the biggest barrier for globalization remains on the regulatory and the commercial side, especially building a sales and marketing access and getting the to different markets still a high bar. So there's not something that we can shortcut, and we still need to work with a global partner for access of the different markets. Yeah, that's our point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was just moderate another discussion panel and talking to Innovent BD, because they recently had a big deal with Pfizer. They also asked for co-development, co-commercialization for some of the assets, but they admit that it is still a large uncertain risk, given that they are require a huge investment and lots of uncertainties given China company has very little experience in the global commercializations. Definitely, that's definitely a one steps really looking forward to build. And maybe it's great to have China's perspective on that one, but we also love to hear our counterparts in the US in the global stage. So what do you see the China ADC industry can improve? Any advice to them, especially probably from Alex, given that you're coming from a small biotech and also big pharma perspective, you have the a view for global commercialization, regulatory, market access, all the challenges. You have a very full understanding of that one. So what's your view? Any advice you were happy to share? Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. And I think the prior speakers highlighted some really important points that I agree with, so I won't reiterate them for the sake of time. I think what I might add, as you noted, from the perspective of thinking about partnering, the themes that I mentioned before, I think are themes that, at least for us, are important: technology differentiation, quality, speed, and collaborativeness. In terms of advice, I think for all the biotechs we speak to, whether they're in China or not in China, I would say there are two themes that many cover and some miss. And the first is to be clear about what the problem or problems are that you're trying to solve, and what data will first suggest and ultimately confirm that you've solved those problems. I think a lot of today's discussion has highlighted some of the challenges we're trying to solve in the ADC space: targets, linker payloads, trial designs, patient selection we didn't get to, but that's another one. So that's the first piece: be clear about the problem you're trying to solve. And then the other one, which I think JQ in particular has highlighted today, is where does your technology or molecule fit in the future treatment landscape? And how does it take into account what you think will be the sequence of treatments by the time you get into phase 3? In some respects, that may sound like asking people to look into a crystal ball, but I think all of us in this field are trying to anticipate the future and then think about how our therapy could be the next advance in that future. So I would say those are the two themes. What are the problems you're trying to solve, and how will those solutions fit into the future landscape? Those are the two pieces that are really important for us to understand as we think about a partnership.
Thank you very much. Yes, I fully understand. You're talking about the China biotech required to have a really end game strategy. Big pharma coming not only for technology, but also try to really fit their pipeline for the future approved in the future landscape. So the better you can illustrate that strategy, the more serious and trustworthy partner you will feel towards the big pharma counterparts. For the interest of time, I think we have to wrap up, but thank you so much. I think probably the last thing is I would love to have each panelist using 1 or 2 sentences to summarize, what you learn or how do you feel about the panel, anything to share, towards our audience. Maybe we can start from Anshu. You have always have a lot of wisdom. We love to hear what your takeaway for this webinar.
I'm actually very grateful to learn from the experience of everybody on the panel. It is a great panel because you had a distribution from people who are still small, successful companies to Merck. And learning from the experience of those people is very helpful to an early stage company. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe Greg?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on the panel. I think what I'm hearing is that China has some strengths, but I think the main takeaway for me is that innovation and great product development is still going to require collaboration globally. Companies and geographies and regions should continue to build on their strengths and look for ways to collaborate to accelerate drug development. Because at the end of the day, I think all of our goal is to get medicines to patients as quickly as possible. So if we can figure out more efficient ways to do that, we should continue to do so.
Thank you very much. JQ?
Yeah, we are still in the middle of the development, and very few topo-based ADC have been approved, and the HER2 and the DAR2, DXd, and the colons in China, and still so much has to be done in terms of manufacturing, in terms of resupply chain, and everything. And then we have these drug resistance issues come up very quickly. And all this combo with IO, with bispecific. And so how can we move this one from late stage indication to the front line? And so much to be done. We need more time to working on ADCs. Yeah, long time to go. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Ziye?
Thank you for today's invitation, and it's a great honor to join the panel. And thank you for all the great ideas and the sharing. And we think we're in the midway for more and better innovations, not only limited to ADCs, but open for all modalities. And we're happy to be in the game and looking forward to more partnerships and collaborations.
Thank you. Finally, Alex.
Thanks again for including me on this panel. I leave this call feeling very excited about the field. To be with people like you who are brave and creative and persistent is really an inspiration. And I think together we will keep advancing the field. I think we're all focused on what we need to do to help patient outcomes be better, as we should be.
Thank you so much. Thank every panelist. I think we have a wonderful discussion today, and hope audience also looking forward to our next China Biopioneer International Edition. Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Jenny. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.